Today's video is all about everything you need to know about buying a home in Florida. Buying a home can be a stressful and emotional process. In today's video, we're going to try to alleviate the stress by sharing exactly what to expect when buying a home in Florida. And stick around until the end because I'll answer the one question almost every out-of-state buyer has when they're moving to Florida. Boom! Boom, we're live. If you're new to the channel, my name is Chris Igo. I'm a full-time, full-service realtor with an all-star team that services all of South Florida. I make content to showcase exactly what it's like to live in South Florida, and I'll occasionally add my opinion or thoughts on really anything I think will help educate or inform to help empower you to make the best decision for yourself, for your family, and for your financial bottom line. Now, before I get rolling here, please say hello. I'm friendly. Where do you live now? Where are you thinking about moving to in Florida? Let's start a conversation in the comments section down below and tell me what you think. What topics can I answer that will provide you the most value? Let me know in the comments and subscribe to the channel. Smash the thumbs up button and hit the bell too so you never miss out on any new video. With the real estate market heating up and what feels like a mass exodus from basically everywhere, now more than ever, I'm getting calls and texts from people up north and from all over the country looking to relocate and move down to South Florida, which we love. So if there's ever anything in the world that we can do to help you, please call, text, leave a comment down below, and we will be happy to help. And please claim your free South Florida City Guide and Relocation Guide by clicking on the free City Guide in the link on the banner at the top of the channel or down in the links below at the bottom of this video. And we'll send you one right away. It's going to tell you everything that you want to know about every city in South Florida. We work with lots of out-of-state buyers, and many of them believe that once their contract is accepted, it's a wrap. Done deal. They just bought a house. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, if you said yes, then I'm glad that you're watching this video because the truth is getting the house under contract, especially in this market, is critical and exciting, but the heavy lifting or the real negotiating doesn't really begin until after your contract is accepted. And to be very clear, just because your contract is accepted, you aren't locked in. You have not purchased the home, but you've absolutely locked it up to ensure that another buyer can't buy it, which in this market is critical. My intent with this video is to provide you the most value by addressing some of the most commonly asked questions that I get, such as, can I back out of the contract after it's been accepted? Or, when should I tell my landlord that I'm leaving my current residence? So we're gonna start at the very first step of the home buying process. And for the basis of this video, we're going to go ahead and assume that you've actually written the offer on a property, that it's been accepted, and that you're under contract. To be totally transparent, it's a big assumption because demand is so high and inventory is so low that getting your contract accepted is a totally different art form. And that will be the topic of another video. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and tap the bell so that you don't miss out on it. All right, in a nutshell, finding your dream home in this environment is one of the tougher things to do that there is out there. And I can confidently say that once you're under contract, you're likely to feel a tremendous sense of relief because there are lots of buyers out there that are making multiple offers on property and the competition is very intense. In spite of the surge of relief that you're likely to feel, you're also likely to feel a sense of buyer's remorse. It's a very large financial transaction. You're putting a lot of money towards a down payment and closing costs. It's completely normal to have some form of buyer's remorse after getting your contract accepted. So please, whatever you do, don't get super stressed out that you're having these feelings. It's totally normal. I can tell you that it happens more often than not with home buyers, especially first-time home buyers. So just understand, it's a totally normal part of the process. And if you're moving in from the Northeast, just know that once you're living in South Florida, you'll almost never have cold feet or cold anything other than a cool drink in your hand as you sit by the pool or the beach maxing out the Florida lifestyle. Now, I'm going to assume for the video that you've already done your pre-approval with the lender. Now, a pre-approval is okay, but everybody has that. A better alternative would be a fully underwritten DU or desktop underwriter. A pre-approval letter is not always enough in this market. They all say the same thing, that the buyer is qualified providing that the property itself checks out and adheres to guidelines. A DU is a way for you to show them the money, and it goes beyond the money, which you can provide by including bank statements. It also shows your complete financial picture, including FICO scores. When a seller reads through the DU, they might not understand all of it, but they will absolutely know that you've got a strong credit score that reflects high creditworthiness. But conversely, if your credit scores are lower than norm, you might not want to provide that information to the seller. This strategy works incredibly well for highly qualified buyers. A DU absolutely gives you a competitive advantage in this market. So again, I'm assuming that you've had a conversation with your lender. You've gone ahead and provided the initial documentation to the lender. Pro tip, Florida real estate contracts are boilerplate documents that default to a 30-day loan approval. It absolutely, 1000%, does not take 30 days to get a loan approval. In this market, if you're getting a loan, you've got little to no chance of getting it accepted if you don't significantly shorten that timeline. To have a competitive advantage, 7 days is best, 15 days is max, 30 days or more, honestly, do not waste your time. You've got no shot. If you need or want a great lender, let me know and I'm happy to hook you up. In fact, I should probably do a video on how to choose a lender too, but we're not going to discuss that in today's video or we're going to be here all day. And it's hot. I don't want to be out here any much longer than I have to, unless I'm going in the pool, which I might do that too. All right, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to start from the place that your offer has been accepted, meaning it's fully executed, all parties have signed. What happens next from the effective date? The very first thing that you have to do is provide your first earnest money deposit to the title or the escrow company within 3 days. You'll have a second deposit, which is typically larger, due as per the standard Florida contractual language 10 days after the effective date to solidify the transaction. Just because the buyer and seller have agreed on the purchase contract, that deal doesn't actually go into escrow until the earnest money deposit has been submitted. So understand, you need to have your earnest money deposit. The money that you're going to put down, it needs to be liquid. It needs to be in a checking account or a savings account. And if it's a gift, it needs to be in your account so that you've got the money to wire or put into a cashier's check as soon as your offer has been accepted. The next step in the process is to order inspections. In this environment, there are a lot of buyers that are reducing contingency period timelines. They're reducing the timelines that normally exist in the contract. As per the Florida contract, we've got 15 days to do inspections. That's the way the contract's written. But in today's market, a lot of home buyers are reducing the contingency periods. They're reducing them to 5, 7, or 10 days. And in some cases, they're waiving the contingency periods altogether. Now, I don't recommend that on inspections. When you are reducing the contingency timelines, it's important that you start ordering inspections as soon as possible. And a home inspection is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to actually have an inspector come out and inspect the house. So typically in Florida, a 4-point and wind mitigation are critical to ensure that you get the maximum insurance discount possible. Now, if you plan on having a mold or sewer or pipe, pool or seawall inspection, these are all inspections that you're going to have to set up and put into place as soon as possible once your offer is accepted. Now, please understand the market is insanely busy. A lot of these home inspectors are booked well in advance. It is imperative that you schedule these as soon as the process starts, so there are no time delays on your part. Now, the appraisal is a separate inspection that's going to be ordered by your lender. Full disclosure, there are horror stories out there of lenders taking a couple of weeks to get appraisals back because the appraisal management companies are so far behind. So if you're going to reduce the contingency period on your appraisal, you need to ensure that your lender can actually support the timeline. You've got to make sure that they are aware of the timeline, and they must know how important the timeline is so that you don't put yourself at risk of contingencies not being met. Now, our preferred lenders expedite and pay for rush appraisals, so we typically get conventional appraisals back in somewhere between 5 and 7 days. Once the inspections have been ordered, the inspector goes out and thoroughly inspects the home. They're going to put together a comprehensive list of everything and anything they see. Now, please keep in mind, you are paying these inspectors to find things wrong with the property. The most common things that I see come up in a home inspection are faulty wiring, water damage from previous leaks, roof issues, and visible evidence of termites. but it's possible that there are unseen foundational issues or any number of things that the eye can't see. Most of the time on these inspection reports, we tend to see nitpicky things, but you've got to do your due diligence. You've got to know what you're buying. Once the inspection report comes back, we've got the opportunity to negotiate. And this is where we are going to go through the inspection report and identify which items of concern are most important to you. Now, bear in mind, some inspection companies are incredible at producing highly inflammatory documents set up, in my opinion, to give you leverage for a price reduction or a seller's credit. Now, you may get a report with big red X's all over it with highly inflated repair costs associated with each fix. I'll give you an example. It's not uncommon to see GFCI electrical outlets quoted between $50 and $250. This could potentially scare the hell out of you and make you believe you purchased a money pit. And they are always going to find something. You could buy a brand new house, get it inspected, and find a similar report. And hopefully your real estate professional is able to communicate with you what are real deal breakers and what are basically just inspector fluff. It's critical to go through that list and discuss it with your real estate professional in order to be determined what really needs to be addressed through a formal request for repairs or a seller's credit. Well, it's raining, so you know it's Florida summer. Ooh, it's really starting to come on in here. All right, this is getting bad. An inspection report usually comes back within a few hours. Best case scenario, it could be a few days later. Most of our preferred providers get it to us that same day. And when we get it back, it gives us an opportunity to negotiate. Now keep in mind, in Florida, all contracts are as-is purchase contracts. So in this massive seller's market that's super hot, unless there's something foundationally or fundamentally wrong with the property, they will likely tell you to take it or leave it because they've probably got several different backup offers. Now, to be clear, that doesn't mean that you don't negotiate. You always negotiate. You always have to ask. We recently helped a buyer from New York buy a home in Wellington, and in order to even submit a contract, the buyer had to sign a document that stated essentially the seller had no knowledge about anything in the home, didn't know the condition, and that no negotiations would be entertained. In spite of that, we still negotiated close to $25,000 off the sales price. Always ask. You put the credit that you're seeking or the items that you'd like repaired in writing. Or rather, your real estate agent does this documentation and sends it to you for your e-signatures. Then from there, they will attach a copy of that home inspection report and build a case on your behalf. It will be sent over to the listing side and for the seller to review. And then they'll decide how they want to proceed. Now, this is where most people freak out a little bit, and it's totally understandable because they think, what happens if the seller doesn't agree with me and they want to back out of the transaction? They can cancel, right? Well, the truth is, no, it doesn't work like that. This is a negotiation. There's likely to be some back and forth, and they can come back and tell us what their terms are. They can also come back and say they agree to some of it or none of it, but it's a negotiation. They can say no. But to be clear, that does not mean the deal is dead. There's a lot that can happen on the back and forth. This is where having a professional on your side is critically important. Somebody that understands the process and that can advocate and guide you through the process to help ensure you get the best outcome. If there's something that's important to you, it's very important to discuss it with your real estate agent so that they can advocate on your behalf and get you exactly what you want, the most favorable outcome. In this market, there are many buyers that are out there waiving appraisal contingencies and getting very creative with terms in order to gain a competitive advantage. Meaning there are buyers that are willing to pay the difference in cash between sales price and appraised values. And others are willing to go out there and write financed contracts as cash offers in order to get their contracts accepted. We've helped many buyers use both strategies, and it's highly effective. But you must have total financial clarity and be very mindful of the timelines in order to fully protect and preserve your options. This is probably a very good topic for another video, so be on the lookout for that. Now, just keep in mind, there are lots of things that can be done to maximize your success in a hyper-competitive market. So let's assume that you have not waived the appraisal. What if the appraisal comes in under the asking price, under the contract price? Does it mean that the deal's going to fall apart? Well, the truth is, not necessarily. You can ask the seller to reduce the price of the home to match the appraised value. The lender is going to lend off the appraised value, not the sales price. So if it comes in less, you've got an opportunity to negotiate. If it comes in at value, well, then you're good to go. And if it comes in more than value, which is the sweet spot, congratulations, you're buying a house that's already got built-in instant equity. Now, we just helped a family purchase a home here in Canyon Trails in Boynton Beach, and due to our negotiation prowess, they walked into almost $30,000 of instant equity. And to be totally transparent, this is not the norm. It's far more common for the home to appraise right at value. Most of the time, appraisers just bring the value to what the purchase price is, because that's really all they need to do. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is that's their job. That's all they really need to do for the transaction. They don't need to bring it in anymore because it doesn't benefit the lender. And the lender is the one who ordered and paid for the appraisal to begin with. Now let's rewind a little bit, because I think I may have gotten a little bit ahead of myself in terms of describing some of the best practices. During inspection, there are a couple of things that you should absolutely keep in mind. The first is, it's the best time to do your measuring for the property. If you're a home buyer and you plan on buying furniture or you plan on doing some remodeling, this is the best opportunity that you have to have the contractors come in, do estimates, and lay eyes on the property. It's a good opportunity to bring a measuring tape and start measuring, taking photos, whatever it is that you want to do in the property. Now's the time. All of this should be done within the inspection timeline. After the inspection timeline is over, the seller doesn't have to allow you back into the property. Now, most sellers will cooperate with you, but they don't have to. So it's a good time to go through the property and look at all those things that you might have overlooked when you initially walked through the home. So what happens if you walk through the property during the inspection and the property is in way worse condition than you thought it was? Are you able to back out of the transaction? It's a very common question that I get all the time. And the answer is yes. As long as your contingency is still in place. If you haven't released the contingency in writing, you didn't waive it up front, then you can back out of the property for any reason whatsoever, or no reason at all. You can back out of the property within the contingency timelines in Florida and get your money back via a release and cancellation. Unless, of course, you've waived those contingencies. So here's a best practice. You're out there, you're home shopping, and you happen to find a few homes that may be perfect for you and your family in an area that's incredibly hot, super competitive. The competition's insane. You could write contracts on all of them, get them all under contract, which buys you time to decide which is the one you actually want to move forward with. In this market, time is not your friend. Someone else is definitely going to lock it up contractually. As long as you are mindful of contractual timelines and you haven't waived your contingencies, there's no risk in this strategy. But if you've waived something like an appraisal or a home inspection, then you can't use those contingencies to back out. So it's critically important to know exactly what impact waiving or reducing timelines means to you. Now, one of the last things that you're going to do during this inspection timeline is you're going to have the opportunity to review the title report. You're going to review the seller's disclosure on the property. You're going to review the HOA documents. So if you're in a community like mine and you have a homeowners association, this is the opportunity for you to review those documents. Many people have questions about how many pets they can have or what breed they can have. There are some people that want the ability to have a boat trailer in the front of their house or a commercial vehicle. You need to know definitively what is and is not allowed in your community. So you want to review those documents, you want to read them thoroughly, not just at a surface level. You want to look at the budget, look at all the details and the rules of the community, the reserves, how much they have in reserves, is there an assessment likely to happen, and also be mindful of the minutes. The minutes will tell you exactly what's happening in those board meetings and what you are likely to expect going forward. They will talk about assessments. They will talk about a lot of things that you absolutely want to be aware of when you're moving or buying a home in that community. Meanwhile, while all this is happening, during your inspections and you're going through these negotiations, your lender is behind the scenes submitting the documentation that you provided up front, along with any updated documentation that you provided for them to review. To go into underwriting for the actual lender to underwrite the loan and come back and say whether it's approved or not. Now you may ask yourself, well, I was pre-approved up front. Why do I have to do any of this? And that's a good question, but what happens is typically you're working with a lender who is a middleman, if you will. Whether they're a broker or a banker, many times they're just doing the initial underwrite of the file. They're looking at the documents and determining whether it fits the guidelines, at which point it goes into escrow. They take the fully executed purchase contract along with the title report and all of the documentation and send it formally to the lender for review. Once the lender reviews it and says, yes, this does meet the guidelines, they send out a conditional approval. At that point, the lender is likely to reach out to you again for additional documentation. Now, it might be updated pay stubs, it could be an updated bank statement, and it might be a letter clarifying something that was reported somewhere. It could also be an updated verification of employment, but understand the lender is the middleman. While it may feel intrusive, but please don't get frustrated with your lender because they're reaching out to you for additional documentation. The only reason they reach out to you and ask for additional documents is because they're being requested to do so in order for your loan to close. And during the process, your lender's working behind the scenes. We are also working behind the scenes and dealing with a lot of people to ensure this transaction goes smoothly. But as a buyer, you're basically done until the walkthrough and closing, both of which can be done remotely or in person, whatever your preference is, whatever's most convenient. But just a heads up, it goes from being very involved in the process to not involved very quickly, which should be helpful because I'm sure you've got lots to do as it relates to packing and moving. But from a process perspective, there really isn't anything for you to do other than continue to be updated by your lender and agent, so you know exactly what's going on. All right, so now that you've done your inspections, you reviewed the documents, you're probably getting close to the end of your loan approval contingency on the property, which means that you could be putting your earnest money and your escrow deposit at risk should you not perform as per the executed contract. Once the contingency period defined by the purchase contract, your escrow deposit and your earnest money could become the seller's if you decide not to move forward for any reason. So if the property doesn't appraise and the seller won't negotiate and you can't make up the difference with cash, or maybe you lose your job or something comes up that you weren't aware of, something changes on your credit report, this is where your deposit could be at risk. Now I say could be because it's not a layup for the seller. If there is an escrow dispute, it goes to arbitration, which can be lengthy and expensive and delays the ability for the seller to sell to someone else. Now, I'm not saying that it does not happen, but it's not the norm. And thankfully, knock on wood, I've never had a buyer lose their earnest money. So as long as you're working with a professional real estate agent and a professional lender, and they're both doing their job, then I'm sure you're in good hands. Once all the contingencies have been met, you've completed the inspection period, and you've received your loan approval, now's the time to start thinking about telling your landlord you're moving out. That's if you have a landlord. Now you might ask, why wouldn't I tell my landlord that I'm moving out as soon as my offer gets accepted? I mean, my landlord's my friend. Well, here's why. If you go into the process of buying a home and something pops up on the inspection, or the appraisal doesn't come in, or something else changes during the transaction and you no longer want to move forward, but you've already told your landlord that you're moving out, it's very possible your landlord already went out and found a different tenant for the property. It is prudent and in your best interest to preserve your options. And the excitement of telling them you could be putting yourself at risk of being homeless or being stuck trying to find another property to live in short term while you find another property to buy. I find it's best in my experience that clients don't tell their landlords that they're moving out until after all contingencies have been met. Now understand, there probably will be a little bit of double paying. You'll be paying your mortgage, you'll be paying on your rent for a little bit, but it provides security and peace of mind. And at the end of the day, security is very important in this process. It gives you the wherewithal to know that your back is not against the wall, that you're not between a rock and a hard place. You don't have to accept things that you don't want to accept because you've told your landlord that you're moving out and now you've got nowhere to go, right? So don't lose your ability to negotiate. I don't want you to fall in love with the property as a home buyer until it's closed. I want you to like the property. I want you to make an offer on the property, but I don't want you to fall completely head over heels in love with it because you lose your ability to negotiate. And I never want you to lose that. Right, another pro tip, and by this point, your lender and your realtor should have already drilled this into your head. Whatever you do, absolutely do not, I repeat, do not go out and run up a new credit card. Don't buy a car. Don't take a new job. Don't do anything crazy during the loan process. And if you've got any questions about what not to do, for the love of your new home, ask first. I'm positive that your lender is going to have this conversation with you, but I want to reiterate it because it's critically important. And I've seen deals go south because people have gone out and decided that they're going to purchase new furniture for their property and blow up their own deal. Or go out and get a new credit card where the credit card balance is now reported on the credit report and it offsets their debt to income ratio. Same thing with getting a new car. Going out, getting a new car with the higher car payment or changing jobs during the transaction, it can really throw a monkey wrench into the transaction. So if you're planning on doing any of that, please have a conversation with your lender before you do it. Now, the very last step in the home buying process before you sign your loan docs is the final walkthrough of the property. Let me correct that a little bit. You may have pre-signed your loan docs. In today's tech-driven world, you can sign everything remotely and in advance. So it's really up to you and what's most convenient. During the walkthrough, you're going to walk through the property and confirm that it's in good condition. You're just walking through the property to make sure it's in the same condition as it was when you initially went there and purchased the home, or rather when you initially wrote the offer on the property. If the seller has agreed to repairs, you can ensure that they were done. Now, it's optimal that the home is vacant during this walkthrough, but it's not always the case. The seller may still be in the property and in the process of moving out during the final walkthrough. It's not optimal, but it happens. So you're going to do the same visual inspection that you would do before. And please keep in mind that if there's anything that you weren't aware of or anything new or anything's changed with the property, you'll have the opportunity to bring those up with the seller. Because what's the old saying? It's not over until the fat lady sings. Well, in this case, if something isn't right at the walkthrough, we will get it resolved either prior to closing or via an addendum, which holds back money to ensure that whatever needs to happen gets done. Now, I've yet to encounter any situation where there isn't a solution. So as long as you've got the right professional, we'll make it work. And then from there, you'll sign all of the closing documents, which include the loan docs, the deed, and a lot of boilerplate paperwork, which must be witnessed and notarized. It can be done remotely and you can pre-sign in advance. But you're not quite done yet. There's still a little bit more involved in the process. You must wire your closing funds into the title company. And of course, that's the payment plus any closing costs that are due. Once it's reviewed, all the docs have been signed, then it goes to the county records for recording the deed and the deal is done. You collect your keys and you celebrate. Now, full disclosure, the recording doesn't happen instantly. It typically takes a few weeks for the county to record it. I hope this content was valuable and I realize it was really long. So thanks for watching. Now let me address a question that I get all the time. And while it isn't part of the home buying process, it is a question that I get from a lot of people moving from the Northeast, which is, are there alligators and is it dangerous for my kids or pets to go outside? Well, Broward and Palm Beach County are wedged between the Everglades to the west and the Atlantic Ocean to the east. Many of the communities have man-made lakes like I have behind me. They're all fed from canal systems that derive water from the Everglades. So there are safety measures to keep wildlife out of the canal systems, but it's possible that a gator or other wildlife could sneak through. It's rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It's always prudent to use common sense and be mindful, have situational awareness. But as you can see behind me, there's a lake and I've never seen a gator. If one did come to visit, Florida wildlife would remove it humanely very quickly. My dog and kids play outside all the time, and it's a very low item of concern for us. Obviously, use common sense and be mindful, but in terms of real danger, I classify it as very minimal. Now, if you ever see me wearing alligator shoes or with an alligator wallet, you can rest assured that one got too close to my house. I'm kidding. Same goes for sharks. I spoke with the buyer last night who asked if shark attacks are something to be concerned about. My answer to that is no. Of course, the Atlantic Ocean absolutely has sharks. Every ocean has sharks, but I go to the beach often. I dive and fish often. Hell, I'm dying to go shark diving, but shark attacks are just not something that I'm worried about. I hope you enjoyed my everything you need to know about buying a Florida home in 2021 video. And if you did, please give it a thumbs up, smash the bell. Was there anything that I didn't cover? Are you thinking about moving to Florida? Let me know in the comments down below. We love living in Florida and suspect that you will too. But the truth is, demand is so high and inventory is so low that if you want to live here, you must contact me immediately. Homes go very fast. There is no time to waste. As a local expert, I typically know what's coming on the market before it even hits the MLS. And once it does, it's typically way too late to get involved. Over the last few years, we've helped hundreds of people buy and sell homes right here in South Florida, and we absolutely love it. As 40-year Florida residents, we know all the best places to fit your desired lifestyle and budget. So if you're even thinking about moving to Palm Beach County, Broward County, or anywhere in South Florida, you've got to reach out to me. Call, text, DM, send a carrier pigeon, a smoke signal, by any means necessary, because we've got your back when it comes to moving to South Florida. And until next time,